I'm going to be taking you through a journey into understanding how your mind works. And in this audio, I'm going to be covering the 4 important stages in setting up your mind to become your own mind coach. Number 1, the reasons why this will change your mindset. And 2, what you can use it for. And 3, some of the most frequently asked questions that I get asked while I'm working with people. And you don't have to understand all of the knowledge and insight the first time that you listen to this, because the more you listen to this particular audio, the more aha moments you will get and the more sense it will begin to make. So every time you get a chance, when it suits you, stick it on in the background. Every time you listen to this MP3, your mind will be making new connections and coming up with new and better strategies in all areas of your life. This is because your mind is learning a new way of looking at the world. And when you give that part of your mind that learns any sort of new information, it has to process it, which means you will now have new and better choices that you never had before. And you can only make choices with the things you hold within your mind. So it's important to update your mind regularly with the information that it needs. Learning how these particular skills work from these instructions is just as important as the techniques themselves. And all you have to really do is put the same amount of effort and energy that you're wasting on using up on feeling bad into mastering how to feel good, which means you already have what it takes to do this. It's just really a matter of doing the opposite of what you're already good at doing. All of the information in this particular MP3 is important, and in this audio I'm going to explain the reality to understanding how to get on the other side of any feeling. And the power to this is not just in doing the techniques, it's more important that you know and understand why and how they work. So these particular processes are set up for you to be able to work on a past challenge, a present challenge, or maybe even a future challenge that you're thinking about. Maybe you just want to change how you feel right now, or even if you just want to sleep better. And you'll find that as you're listening to these MP3s, even this particular one, it'll take you outside of the problem, and it'll get you to look at the much bigger perspective on the place that you're stuck. It'll take you outside and it'll start to make you think a little bit better about the problem as you're looking at it from a different perspective. This opens up your mind, and you might be thinking, what's the difference between this and everything else that's out there? And what I find is the reasons that most self-help techniques don't work for people is because the person trying to use them doesn't have the context underneath them to know how and why they work. And the person that normally gives the techniques, they might understand from all of their years of training how they work. And that's because their mind has an insight underneath the technique, and their mind can process it easily. But that's like giving someone a hammer and a saw and telling them to just go and build a house. They might have the tools, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they have the wisdom and the skills to be able to carry out that task. They could give it a good try, but they wouldn't be very successful. Your mind is just like a computer. You need to know how it works to be able to operate it to its full capability. And you could spend your whole life searching for a fast fix to your problems, but fast fixes never are really useful or beneficial for the long term. These audios are way more than what you think. These techniques are way beyond just techniques. Not only will you resolve the problem that you're working on, it's also training your mind how to react differently to future events by giving your mind new choices that it hadn't got before. And the ability to be able to choose with new choices that you're installing here right now, even just by listening to me talking here. And your mind will digest this new information. It has to. And when it does, it will give you access to a much broader context of responses. And if you think about it, it makes sense. If you don't have an understanding of what you're doing, how can you expect your mind to process it? It doesn't have the blueprint of what to do with the techniques, so it can't process that information properly. And some of the questions I often get asked when I'm working with people is when they do get a feeling, most people don't know what to do when they get the feeling. They automatically kind of label it or just push it down or ignore it or suppress it or express it. So you're probably familiar with having your mind switching from good mood into bad mood and not understanding how it happens. And people often ask me, how has anxiety and unhappiness gained so much control over my life? Well, in my experience in helping people to overcome these problems, I've noticed a very, very obvious condition pattern to this process. For most people, if you think about it, When we're feeling bad, we often go looking for more information and evidence for why we are feeling bad. And when we're feeling good, in most cases, we don't check with ourselves for qualifications and ask, why and how am I feeling good? Why is this? That just means that you have little or no strategy in place to collect evidence to support why we are feeling good. Hence, it's just like the good dog and the bad dog. If you had a good dog and a bad dog, whichever one you would feed the most is the dog that will win the fight. And whichever process you practice will define your quality of life and the quality of life of the people around you. So if you're paying attention to good things and collecting evidence about good things, your life will be good. If you're paying attention to all the bad things in life and you're collecting evidence why life is crap, you get to be right too. Either way you get to be right. One way you get to be happy, and the other way you get to be miserable. So it's about developing this skill. And you might not be aware that you're already good at doing this process, because there has been times in your life when you felt good, and there's been times in your life when you felt bad. So it's really just about doing a little bit more of the process that you like doing and a little bit less of the one you don't like doing. So another question I often get asked about is the fear of uncertainty. This is very common. Everybody that I kind of meet is always a fear of the unknown. The fear of not knowing what's going to happen next. The obsession with wanting to know if everything's going to be okay. Most people that I have worked with, they have this fear, nearly all of them. This fear has been instilled in us from childhood. The fear that we need to know what's going to happen next. We are consistently told that we need to have a good education when we're kids if we want to become successful and happy. And if we don't have an education, we won't get a good job. And if we don't get a good job, we won't be able to buy a house and get married and be happy. And the fact is, I work with people who have all of these things, yet they still find unhappiness in it. And the truth is, there is no happiness in any of these things. Happiness comes from you, not to you. All of these things can be important in life, but if you can't find happiness in €10, the chances are you won't have the skill to find happiness in €10 million. Happiness is a skill that is created within you. If you're not happy with what you have, that means you don't have the skill to be happy with what you want. And it's very important to learn to be able to come to peace with uncertainty, because there is and has and always will be uncertainty. As human beings, no matter what or who we are, we always want to evolve and become more. It's the only way that we will continuously be happy. The mind does not like certainty or routine. It's alright for a short term, but the mind is always hungry for new information. We are truly only happy when we are growing and evolving and changing and becoming more. Because if you continue to hold on to a belief that you've stopped changing and that this is it, you stop being aware that all you are is change, and you will always be changing. You are changing with every heartbeat, and you've been changing and growing and learning since the day you were born. And by listening to this audio, you're learning more than what you knew, and that means you're becoming more than what you were. If you think that you've stopped changing, you will become stuck in certainty, and there's no new opportunities or true new possibilities in certainty. There's nothing new in what you already know. And when you get stuck in your head and you're going over and over the things you already know, looking for new information, and you keep asking your mind if it knows the answer to your problems, and you don't get any answers, yet you keep asking your mind if it knows the answers to your problems, doing this will just have you going around in circles. And if you keep avoiding and fearing uncertainty, you cannot move forward. You can't evolve. In order to learn, you have to start from a place of uncertainty, a place of not knowing. You can truly only learn something if you don't know it. A place of curiosity, like when you were a kid. Kids thrive through uncertainty. They're excited about the unknown, exploring. And it's not possible to know everything. There will always be more of what you don't know than what you do know. And uncertainty means opportunity. Because in uncertainty, that's where growth occurs, and uncertainty is where enlightenment happens. In this life, you only need to know enough to be able to take the smallest next step and see what presents itself and just be present. And when you do this and you have these new skills to let your fears go, you'll notice that it ain't so bad. You're always safe in the present. If you went to a movie with a kid and the kid kept asking you all the way through the movie, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen at the end of the movie? What advice would you give the child? So for you, take the smallest next step and enjoy this journey called life. And keep in mind and remember, not every feeling you experience means anxiety, because you are a natural, electrical, biological human being and you're living in a toxic environment. And there's lots of reasons why you can feel different most days. This can be down to so many different factors. And you need to understand these facts. That you could be feeling off because of simple things like bad nutrition. Are you looking after yourself? Are you taking the right supplements and minerals and vitamins into your body? Would you ask yourself that? And how do you know you are? Even dehydration can be a cause of feeling bad. Do you drink enough water? Because I know if I don't drink enough water, I feel off. But I don't label it with anxiety. Most people do. Most people say, I don't know what this is. I don't feel too good today. I think it's anxiety. Maybe low sodium levels. Low sodium levels in people's body is huge. People don't take enough sodium, salt. Not table salt, sea salt, pink salt. High or low sugar levels. If you eat chocolate, you're going to feel off. If you eat too much sweet stuff, your body's going to be chemically imbalanced. And your body has to process all of that stuff. And even simple things like if you didn't have a proper breakfast. There's lots of different elements in this life that can be the cause of change in how you feel. And I'm going to explain some of the not so often talked about facts so that you can keep them in mind, which will give you more choices. And some of these might not sound important, but they are important because they do have an effect on how you feel. And it's my job to inform you of all of these reasons why you could be feeling a particular way. Most people never stop to think that any of these factors are at play. And even simple things like the atmospheric pressure changes on a regular basis, on a seasonal basis, on a daily basis. And this can have a direct effect on your nervous system, on how you feel. The higher the pressure rises in the air, the more pressure is put in your brain and your body. And these pressures are always fluctuating and your body has to adapt to these changes in pressure. And when the air pressure does change, all sorts of biological changes begin to happen inside your body, including your blood pressure and hormonal changes. These are facts. If you are the owner and operator of a body and a mind, you need to be aware of these factors. Otherwise, every feeling would be labelled with anxiety. So just keep in mind that all of these factors are at play, and you don't have to think about them all of the time, but just hold it in the back of your mind that when you check in with yourself and you experience any of the above fluctuations chemically or electrically, if you didn't know this stuff, it could make you start to think, uh-oh, what's wrong? Why? What does this mean? And then it will make you start to think about how you feel. And then you throw more logs on the fire and you start to feel how you're thinking. And that makes you think more about how you're feeling. And a sort of a loop process starts. And all of a sudden, you maybe go to your doctor and the doctor will label it, uh-oh, I think that must be anxiety. Sounds like anxiety. Anxiety is a process. And when you realise it's a process, you can change how you process it and eliminate it. So you only have to feel it when there's real danger in your personal space. This is good news. Your body is an amazing machine and it's designed to always protect you and to adapt to its environment. And you can only do this properly if your mind has all the information that it needs to effectively measure your environment. If it has all of the right information that you need to automatically react in a better way. So when you feel these feelings coming on, or any feeling that comes up, you're going to feel feelings. It's life. It's knowing how to let them go. That's the skill. So what do you do? How do you do it? How do you let go of these feelings? How do you change them when you do feel them? What do you need to do? What do you need to think? So I'm going to explain some of the things. It would be really valuable for you to keep this next metaphor in mind that I'm going to give you right now. Because your mind loves stories and it loves trying to make those stories fit your life. That when you feel your mind trying to pull you down into that old negative way of thinking about things, that happens because your mind has just been preconditioned that way. So here's what you can do. When you feel that happening, just keep in mind that it's kind of like driving a car on a road, and if you're driving a car on a road that's just tilted and off balance, and if you're driving on that road and it's just tilted slightly to the left, when you're driving and you get to that part of the road that is tilted to the left, what would happen if you let go of the steering wheel? The car would just drift off the road, right? So in that situation, all you would have to do is apply some pressure to the right hand side of the steering wheel, and that would stop the car from drifting off the road. And then after a moment, when that part of the road passes, you just stop applying the pressure. Stop paying attention to the pull, because you wouldn't have to be, because you'd be on the other side of it. And then the automatic part of your mind will take over and steer you into the direction that you want to go. Because this training is designed to give you choices you normally wouldn't have. Now you will, because it's a choice. You can choose to let go of the steering wheel of your mind, or you can choose not to make any decision, just blame the road. Or you can choose to take control of your mind with both hands. What you can sometimes forget is you are processing all of the information that comes through all of your senses. So take control of focusing on what makes you feel better. Learn to recognize what's not good for you to focus on, and just let it pass. And then shift your attention in small, humble ways. Because if you have access to all of the basic human fundamental needs like food, water, clothing and shelter, and you have those basic needs available to you, and this skill and mindset that you're developing, you have all of the resources that you need to live a much better quality of life. For me, it's not about fixing you or fixing people. I believe nobody is broken. It's really about empowering you to realize that you are way more powerful than what you think you are. And we've developed these techniques for you. They're all designed to empower you and to help you to develop and condition an automatic strategy inside of you. And for this to happen, your mind and body need to learn to collaborate and come to peace with each other. And the more you understand and the more you learn how your mind and body work together, the faster you'll become the master of it. And you will come to realize that it's not just about getting rid of feelings or suppressing them. It's really about having the skill to change them. Because all feelings are a gift. They're a gift of life, and you need all of them in order to make good choices. But you shouldn't have to feel any of them all of the time. The important thing to learn is how to process your feelings. To have the skill to let them go or build them up when you need them. Pain, sadness, anger, anxiety, they're all relevant feelings, just as much as joy and happiness are. Because we cannot be happy all of the time. If there was just happiness, happiness would lose all meaning. This is normally what happens to celebrities and wealthy people. Technically they should be happy, but in happiness they can find misery. Happiness comes from you, not to you. And when you feel happy, if you don't have these essential skills, you can lose sight of where you are. And you'll probably start looking for unhappiness in this happiness. And you'll probably have experienced this at some time in your life. Or maybe you know someone who has all of the basic human fundamental needs, like food, water, clothing and shelter, and more. And it could be even a sunny day, and there's no good reason why you should be feeling down. Yet, they can still find a couple of problems in their life and focus all their attention on what's wrong instead of what's right. Unless you understand these dualities, you'll be stuck. Happiness cannot exist alone. There has to be contrast in everything in life. In order to see the stars, there has to be darkness. You need to have contrast. Everything needs to have contrast. Remember, when you're living by the concepts and limitations and expectations that you should be feeling a particular way, all you're really doing is you're building fences around yourself and locking yourself off from experiencing the full range of emotions that are essential for living a safe and fulfilled life. Like apathy. If you don't have apathy, you wouldn't be concerned about doing anything. You need to have grief, but not grieve all the time. You need to have a certain amount of fear to protect yourself. Lust. You need anger. If someone is trying to push you around, you need to express your anger and then let it go. You need love, you need pride and courage, acceptance and peace. All feelings are important. And even having no feelings at all at some stage would become a problem. And medication can suppress feelings, limit your access to some of these feelings, and sometimes can limit access to all of them. Having no feelings at all can become a problem. It's good to experience happiness, empathy, compassion, understanding, frustration when it's needed. So it's not a good idea to try and get rid of the feelings. It's really about coming to peace with them and retraining your mind to collaborate with your body And remember, you already have the skills to do this. If you've ever worried about anything or you have anxiety, you have to be really creative in order to be able to be worried or feel scared. You have to do something really successful within your mind with the information that you're perceiving and receiving from the outside of you, or the information you're perceiving from the inside of you, and you need to keep focusing on it and to sustain that feeling. The latest tests and studies have shown that no emotion, even cravings, can last for more than 26 seconds. After 26 seconds, the feeling will start to dissipate unless you add another proverbial log on the fire, like another thought like, oh, what's wrong? Why? How? This is going to be a bad day. What if this happens? What if that happens? Uh-oh, here we go again. This must be my anxiety. Always keep in mind that you and only you are the operator and the owner and the observer of this whole process. Your body's kind of like a puppet, and your mind is the only thing that should be in control of it. It's just like your hand. You could go around and pinch people all day and say, sorry, not my fault. I'm not in control of it. That would not be true. It's your hand and it's your mind. And if you can move your hand, you can move feelings. It takes less energy to move a feeling and to let it go than it is to move your hand. It's just we were never trained how to do this. Take this opportunity to reclaim the skill to owning your mind. It's your choice. You can choose to try it out or you can choose to own it. Some people might ask me, will this definitely work for me? Well, it's like going to the gym. The only reason it wouldn't work is if you didn't do it. Now, you could choose to go now and look at Facebook or Google stuff, Google your problems, or you could watch TV, or you could say maybe I'll start it tomorrow, or you could enjoy the fact that you have access to these powerful skills to be able to develop this new strategy with all of the time that you were wasting on worrying. You've got loads of spare time. What are you going to do with all that time that you're not worrying? You could be sitting down and be reprogrammed by the TV. It's called a TV program for a reason. It's reprogramming you with fear and mostly useless information. What I want you to consider, whichever choice you choose, is which one will feel better for you. Watching TV or discovering how to own your own mind. Remember, whatever you put into your head lives in your head. So before you let any TV or social media stuff into your head, just ask yourself a question. Will this benefit my life in any way? Any information that you're letting into your mind, whatever you put in there lives in there and your mind has to process it. It's the same with this process here. This is good stuff. What these processes are doing is restructuring and rewiring new pathways in your mind and training your mind to automatically react more effectively. And this new mindset will quickly become as permanent as the old way was. And it's almost like if you could imagine that if you were to make your way home from work and you had a particular route that you'd take home from work every day, and the journey home involved wading through a dirty river and then walking across a field, and at the end of the field there was lots of thorn bushes and you had to break through them. By the end of that day, when you got home, if you were wet, dirty and tired, and all the people at home weren't too happy to be able to see you that way. But if I showed you an easier way home, and this new way had a bridge over the river and the route was shorter with no thorn bushes, would you take it? And the only small challenge to this new way for you is the field has very tall grass in it. Now you know the general direction that you want to go. Everybody knows where they want to be and how they want to feel. And all you'd have to do is head in that general direction and break through that grass a few times. I'll guide you. And eventually you will develop a new pathway through that field, and it will eventually become the new and easier way to get you to where you need to go. And what I'm doing is I'm going to be helped to guide you to the destination that you want to go till it becomes easy and automatic. And even listening to this particular audio every other day in the background will make a huge difference to how your mind processes information that comes through all of your senses, because there is a part of your mind that is consistently learning, part of your mind that's outside your conscious awareness. It's the same part of your mind that learns when you're listening to a song. After a period of time of just listening to the song in the background, you can remember that song word for word. Even years later, you still know the song, and you weren't particularly focused on the song or listening to it and saying, I have to learn this song. It's just on in the background, and eventually your mind has to process it, and it will present it to you when you need it. Like when you're at a party and you need to sing the song, or when you hear it on the radio, there's a time that you have to sing it and there's times you don't need it, so your mind doesn't present it to you when you don't need it. This information will be the same. It will present it to you as you need it, but it needs to have the information. It's very important for you to be able to set your intention in this life that you are living. If you don't set your intention, your mind will just go round and round in circles, and I'm going to help you set your intention. And it can change all the time. It doesn't have to be a set intention. Most people don't know what their intention is. If you don't set your intention, your mind will go round and round in circles and you'll remain stuck. This system is designed to simply and enjoyably train you to have a better quality of life. It's the desired outcome that you want. And these techniques helps your mind to move all of the obstacles out of the way. Remember, you are the only one in control of your mind. Your mind will probably try and trick you and tell you it can't, that it's not going to work, or you can't do this, you're not good enough, that your mind is being set up that way. Your mind is lying to you because it's being told to. It's your socially constructed perception of reality that was educated through your friends. We were disempowered when we were growing up. This process is empowering you, and I want you to think about that. To have access to this. Not an awful lot of people have access to this. It's very unique, and if you've worked with me, you'll understand how this process works. I'm getting you there, and it's up to you to be able to stay there and own your own mind. That's when you will feel empowered. So take the smallest next step, and I encourage you to come back to this audio as often as possible. It's up to you, you don't have to do it. To just remind your mind why and how this process works, because it's not easy feeling bad. It's much easier feeling good. Once you have this quality of wisdom within you, it's easy. So listen to it as often as possible. Put it on in the background. Play it every now and again. Listen to half of it. And just take the smallest next step. Being at peace and being present, and take the smallest next step. This is the end of this particular MP3. I want to thank you for coming here and listening. And check it out as often as possible.